welcome. I'm Deirdre O'Byrne, and I'm very pleased to be welcoming Kereen Getten today. And we're going to be featuring her novel, When Life Gives You Mangoes. And Kereen is going to start with a short reading.
Thank you. As we walk down the small hill from our house to the main road, I can see Gaynah is still waiting for her phantom friend. I balance a small foam board on my head, matching Mama's footsteps in the dirt as she carries mangoes from our garden to sell at the market. She wears a simple black vest that hugs her full figure and a loose wrap skirt that flaps against her legs. We pass Gaynah on the road. She checks her perfectly manicured nails, pretending she doesn't see me. We continue along the narrow road that curves into Sycamore Hill and down a steep incline towards the village. There is nothing up here but the river, fields of trees, and our imaginations. Everyone knows each other on the hill, from Pastor Brown to Miss G. Our parents grew up together, and so did their parents. You live and you die here. No one leaves and no one comes in. Sometimes that's a good thing because you know everyone and everyone knows you. Other times you get tired of seeing the same faces and want something new. What I love most about living here is my best friend Gaynah. She lives down the hill from our house. She's 2 months older than me. Really, we are cousins because her mom and my mom are sisters. But even if we weren't cousins, we would still be best friends. We are opposites, which is probably why we don't get along sometimes. She likes dressing up, while I find matching a top with your bottoms one of the cruelest ways to make humans suffer. No one should have to endure that. Mama always grimaces when she sees what I'm wearing, but Gaynah doesn't care about hurting my feelings. She tells me to go back inside and try again. You can't wear leggings under a dress, Clara. Why not? Because you look like a beach umbrella. I don't care for clothes like Gaynah, but she cares about my clothes. She wants to do well at school, not because she enjoys it, but because her mother wants her to. I like school. I help Gaynah with schoolwork and she helps me to be cool. But somewhere along the way, she got tired of helping me. She moved on, only hanging out with me when no one else was around. Even then, she always had something to say about what I was wearing or saying or not remembering. We argue, then we make up. That's how it's always been. This time, though, we haven't made up.
Thank you. It's great. I come from a place like that too, where everybody knows everybody. I know exactly what you mean, but sometimes you need to get it out. So When Life Gives You Mangoes, it only just came out in 2020. You say your son encouraged you to press send on it, and then it was championed by Book Trust, reviewed all over the place, including, I'm very impressed, Opera Magazine reviewed it. And shortlisted for Jalak Children in Young Adult Prize, shortlisted for Branford Boys Prize. How pleased is your son to be proved right?
Oh, he's so smug right now. He's very smug and he keeps reminding me that it was because of him and therefore he should get proceeds of whatever I earn from this from this book. So yeah, he feels very pleased with himself. I'm really pleased that I did it as well. Yeah. I was so nervous about sending it. And I think every writer goes through this, that, you know, when you write something from your heart and then you have to send it out for people to judge and decide whether they like it or not. That's, you know, you have to be quite vulnerable and that's quite a tough thing to do. But yeah, I finally sent it off and my agent really liked it. So yeah, then it took off. So very grateful to my son.
Yeah. It's a great read. I loved it.
Thank you.
I was very interested to see there's a Nottingham connection. The publishing for your first short story?
Yes, yeah. So I started off writing short stories when I made the decision that I would start to take writing seriously and I would just give it a good effort. I started writing short stories and sending them off to magazines. And the Nottingham Review was one of the first magazines that printed my story. And it was because of them that I got the confidence to continue writing and to, you know, write a full-length novel and send it off. So yeah, I'm ever so grateful for them.
Look, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Five Leaves, for anyone who doesn't know, we're based in Nottingham. Of course, Nottingham is a city of literature for UNESCO.
Yeah.
So you choose in When Life Gives You Mangoes, the narrator Clara is about 12, or she is 12 years old. The narrators in Two Sisters, your most recent novel, they're also about the same age. The books are classed as middle grade reading age. Can you tell me about picking that as an age to aim for and to write about?
Yeah, it wasn't the big decision. It just sort of happened. When I started to think about Clara and her story and going on adventures and friendships and how important that is, that was the age that I came up with. I feel like it's such an important age where you're getting older, you're going into being a teenager, you're a tween. Relationships are very important, and there's some real emotions and really strong emotions that you have at that time with friendships, especially because you friendships is so important at that age specifically. I feel like, and I really just wanted to delve into that. I just thought that would just be a really interesting thing to uh, to write about, and it's something that I really remembered, being that age, and how friendships were so important to me, and how one minute you're friends and it's just the worst thing in the world, and then next week you couldn't even remember what it was about. And then sometimes friends move on, and it's just so devastating to you. And I thought that's just it was just a really interesting thing that I wanted to write about.
Yeah, you write very well about the ups and downs, and indeed the
Yeah.
conflict between sisters and two sisters at the same, I know it
Yes.
very well.
Yeah.
Um, you you're originally from Jamaica, and you said that the setting of When Life Gives You Mangoes is basically where you grew up. And Two Sisters also begins in Falmouth, Jamaica. Is that where you imagined the story right from the start, going back there?
Yeah, I mean, with Mangoes, I wrote it because I wanted to write about my hometown. I was born in a small seaside town. It was very close knit. We lived on top of the hill. Everyone knew each other. And yeah, the freedom that Clara has in the story is the same thing that I had in my childhood. And the game Pick Leaf is the same game that I played when I was a child. So yeah, that was the initial reason why I wanted to write about why I wrote Mangoes, was so I wanted to write about that. I just thought it was just a great backdrop for a story. With Two Sisters, I was asked to write that as part of the Voices series, and I was asked to write about slavery, and it was for middle grade, so it would have been about the same age. And because I have, history with Jamaica, that's the story that I found. I came across a story of three sisters, actually, who a true life story, and they got separated, and that's what inspired me to write Two Sisters.
Can you tell us a bit more about the the Voices series?
Yeah, so the Voices series is what Scholastic have done, and Tony Bradman heads it. And it's really about highlighting Black and Brown people in England, mostly before Windrush, but there is a story based in around the Windrush time. But it's just about just highlighting the British history that involved Black and Brown people. So, there's all sorts of interest. It's a brilliant series, all sorts of interesting stories, from Tudor times, and mine from the 1700s. And then I think the last one before mine was Windrush as well. So it's focused on stories that school children can read and learn about with a fictional, storyline.
We interviewed Ray for Five Leaves Bookshop as well.
Ah,
Was in there,
yes,
and
yeah.
Benjamin Zephaniah was
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he did the Windrush one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great series. It is. It's terrific. Um, I was wondering about the memory box in When Life Gives You Mangoes. Do you have a memory box? Did you keep one?
I actually do. And I didn't think about the coincidence of writing a memory box in the story, but I actually do have a memory box I'd completely forgotten about.
Wow.
When I moved to this house, and I had some things at my mom's house,
Mm.
and so I brought them over here, and there was a box that I have that has a diary from when I was 11 years old. And I have another diary from when I was 13 years old. It was all very, very dramatic. And I've got some, cinema stubs on there, and postcards. And I used to write stories as well when I was younger. So I have like these books that have these short stories in them, which is very interesting to look back at.
Oh, that's an amazing resource for a writer.
Yeah, it's fascinating to sit down and go through it and just remember what I was thinking and what I was doing at that time, and how dramatic things were when I was 13 years when I was 13 years old.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, when life gives you mangoes is a kind of a memory box in itself.
Yes.
As you say, it's where you
Yes.
grew up.
Yeah.
I liked the feistiness of well, Ruth in Two Sisters, but Clara is, she has got such a lot about her. Is that the kind of kid that you were?
No, I wasn't anything like Clara. I think I was a little bit like Clara in the way that, I spent a lot of time by myself, and, Clara has her little cove that she goes to when she eats mangoes. And that's probably where our similarities end. Clara, she says what she's thinking. She's, very defiant. She knows what she wants, and, she speaks her mind. Not always a good thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but she speaks her mind, she speaks her truth. And, that was nothing like me. I was very shy as a child.
Oh, it's great to explore it in literature. I really like that she wants to surf all over the world, and she's up on the fort playing with cannons and stuff, and she goes for us. In both of the books, I mean, as you said, more specifically in Two Sisters, you've got the story of slavery and colonialism, but you've also got it in there in Mangoes. There's a phrase about when England ruled our island and didn't want anyone else to have us. How important do you think it is that literature reflects our shared histories, whatever side of the cultural divide we're on?
I think it's so important, and I think the Voices series really highlights that. I think even in a fictional setting, for me specifically, even though it was a fictional story, it was in a real setting. And it was hard for me not to talk about it because there were ruins, wherever Clara went, there was ruins. She, her uncle was in the big house, and that had a history. She liked playing at the cannons, and that had the history. So it was impossible for me not to acknowledge it, because, Jamaica has a long history with colonialism, and I thought that it was important for me to put that in there, that this is our island and this was our past, and it's still there, we see it all the time. So I think it's really important.
I liked that you included an Irish maid in Two Sisters, because there were lots of things I recognized about, like we have the same kind of big house tradition, and I mean it's different, but there certainly is a shared elements there.
Yes.
You have the hurricane, and I mean I saw in White Smith White Teeth, Sadie Smith has a hurricane as a part of the plot, The Mermaid of Black Conch, and I've just recently interviewed Monique Ruffey, the writer of that. And you've got a hurricane in here as well. Did you actually live through hurricanes? I mean, how common are they?
I mean, they tend to be quite common, but the severity of them is not very common. So I have lived through quite a bad hurricane. I've lived through smaller ones as well. And I just have a very specific memory of being quite small. And there was a hurricane coming, and we had the warning, and everyone started to board up their houses, and the weather changing. You could really feel the weather changing, people stocking up on food and on water. And then once they'd boarded up the houses, we went inside, we locked the door, and we had candles in case the electricity went off. And then we sat and we waited. And I just remember that really, really clearly, of just sitting there waiting for the storm to come. Yeah. So
And you deal with it really well. And what's really strong is the sense of community, how
yes.
people come together because of the storm. But really is a great sense of atmosphere in that book, particularly.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's wonderful. I found it very interesting in Two Sisters that there's the real life history of Francis Barber, the Jamaican servant of Samuel Johnson. But he tells Ruth in the story about that special tavern. Where did you come across the story? Could you tell us a bit more about the tavern and where you found that story?
Yes, it's just fascinated me so much that I literally had to include it in there. So before I wrote the story, I had the idea of what I was going to write, and then I went and did some real life research. So I read a lot of history books, and I read in Samuel Johnson's, I think it was his memoir, and there was a mention of a tavern where Black people went. So the servants went to, and it was their own space. They played music, they ate, they drank, they danced. And I just thought, that's so wonderful. I never knew that existed at all. But, you know, it's so strange that we don't know these things, you know, that we know about slavery, we know about the pain of slavery, but we rarely get told about the joy, and, you know, because they're still human beings and they're still living their day-to-day lives. And I really wanted to include that. I didn't just want it to be about pain. I wanted to show that, you know, people survive and they find ways to survive. And this was one of the ways that they did it, this wonderful little tavern that they went to, and it was their space and they could be themselves.
It reminded me of the recent BBC series where they were telling the untold stories of Black lives in Britain. And
Yes.
you saw people getting together there in their houses or in their own, you know, restaurants and
Yes.
tavern kind of spaces.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that that has been there before,
yes.
you know,
Yeah.
there are so many kind of links there. It's wonderful to see us.
Yeah.
I know you're interested in travel. Do you get to Jamaica much? Or, I mean, I know with COVID, you can't. Do you go back much there?
Yeah, we try to get there at least a couple of times every couple of years. We try to, because we have family still there. My mother's brother is still there with his family. So the last time we were there actually was just before COVID hit. So we went for Christmas of 2019. We came back in January 6th. And then I think it was March, we were in lockdown. So yeah, we just got in time, thank goodness. So we managed to see our family before that all happened.
Yeah. And all the things we're doing. I mean, in some ways it is more accessible. I mean, when this goes up online, maybe your relatives over there will be able to see you.
Yes, isn't that a great thing about the internet?
Yeah.
People can see it all over the world.
Yeah, it's terrific. Yeah, we've had people joining us from New Zealand, Canada.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah. I mean, I do miss live events, but this is terrific.
Yeah.
What are you planning next then, Kereen? Have you started, or is that a terrible question to ask you when you just published your most recent novel?
No, because I write so far ahead. So I've just finished, fingers crossed, the last edit of my third novel. And that's going to also be set in Jamaica. And that's about around the same age group, a group of friends. It's specifically about one girl who receives letters from her mother who passed. And these letters take her on this journey across the island where she sort of rediscovers herself because she's lost herself. So I've just finished that. And then I'm about to start on the next one. So yeah, it never stops, but I'm very, very grateful. to be able to do
You're
this.
incredibly disciplined. I mean, I was very impressed. But I mean, it was great to be invited to do the Voice series after the success of Mangoes. But you
Yes.
got it out so quickly afterwards that. Are you still writing short fiction?
No, I haven't done that for a long time. Just time more than anything. But I do love short fiction. I love how quick you can get it done, and it's not, it doesn't take as long as when you're doing a novel. I do want to get back into it, but I'm not sure when that will be. So yeah.
Chris, so are the last question? I see we're going to have to stop soon. But are the awards going to be online? Are you invited to an online ceremony?
Yes, they're going to be online. I think everybody's doing everything online now until maybe towards the end of the year, because you just don't know what's happening at the moment, do you? Everything's still so uncertain, even though it's things are starting to open up. So yeah, it's going to be online.
Are they open to the public? Can we all watch, or
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what the details are. I guess maybe we'll find out closer to the time.
Yeah.
How that will go down. But I think it's new for them as well, isn't it? So they're still, they're figuring everything out, how that's going to work.
In Nottingham, we'll be keeping an eye on Twitter and wishing you all the best.
Yes,
and
do that.
All the
Thank
best
you.
with both books. But it's really terrific to see When Life Gives You Mangoes being so acclaimed. It deserves every bit of it. And I'm
Thank
sure
you so much.
To have equal success with Two Sisters. So you're going to leave us with a short reading, Kereen?
I will, yes. I just wanted to say as well, thank you for supporting Mangoes. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
I love the rain, don't you? He says, approaching me. I do love the rain, but it's hard to focus when I don't know what he's going to ask me next. Suddenly, I wish I hadn't come here. My gut feels uneasy and my mind is screaming for him to not say anything else. I stare hard at the pellets of rain hitting the veranda outside. The community loved my father. He was a loud, friendly man who lived in a big house on the hill. Pastor Brown, your father, your mother, we were all inseparable. This house was our playground. He trails off. My father loved to fish. It's where your father gets it from. He often took us with him, me, your father, Barry. He would teach us what to do, tell us the names of each fish, show us how to find the right spot. One Sunday morning, he wanted to go fishing, but I was the only one awake, so we decided to go alone. As we were leaving, Moses, Pastor Brown's father, showed up. He usually never went anywhere with us, but for some reason, he turned up at my father's door and said he wanted to come too. He'd had a dream the night before that something significant had happened in the water. He thought God was speaking to him. He wanted to wake Barry, but his father hardly ever did anything with him. Barry spent so much time at our home, he became like family, but Moses said, no, let him sleep. He moves around me so we are facing each other, and this time I don't run. I stay to listen. This is a story I've wanted to know my whole life. This is the truth.